In the last video, you heard the final part of a conversation we had at the end of 2020. After that, I did call her again starting in early 2021 just to chat. At first, she sounded to me a little bit concerned that I had called to get into more debate with her, but I kept the call short and just caught up on personal things. After that, she was always more happy sounding to hear my voice when I called. But you know that she wasn't going to be able to keep from using her training for very long. So in June, we started getting a little bit back into some theology discussion. Here's the beginning of that. To start off, we were talking about people in our lives who are trapped in the false prosperity gospel movement, also called the NAR, or New Apostolic Reformation. She simply refers to that as Pentecostal, but if you've been listening through this series, you know she uses that word as a very broad brush for basically all of Christianity because she doesn't seem to want to think more deeply about these issues. I had to cut some of this part out so that no personal info is shared here, but I think it's still pretty clear what we were talking about anyway. This part is sort of weird because I'm actually teaching her about the NAR prosperity gospel. For her, she just assumes that everyone in so-called Christendom believes all that garbage. So I was hoping that explaining to her why I know that it's false might help. I don't know if anything got through to her, though. Basically, we were both agreeing that this movement, which is basically a cult, is wrong and bad.
And she got heavily involved in the American politics, thinking because she's Pentecostal, and a lot of the
men
believed that that was going to bring in God's kingdom. And when he lost the election, that was a big turning point for her.
Yeah, I saw actually some interesting information about all these false prophets that they're in part of what they call the prosperity gospel or the health and wealth, which is all false gospel, of course. And then all of those false prophets, every single one of them who are like popular and rich and all that, they all predicted that Trump would get back in.
Well, yes.
And they were all wrong, and yet they're still out. They're still doing it, and I know my relative still follows them. And it's, how can you follow them? Like, test a false prophet. Yes, I could have used this as an opportunity to point out the Watchtower's many false predictions as well, but I was trying to keep it light here, and we have been over that issue before anyway. It's really obvious, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's hard.
People get something in their mind and you can't convince them. Wrong is right.
Well, there's a lot of. I think there's a lot of emotion.
Convinced about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion attached to it. I think they. From what I'm trying to understand, because I have other family that are caught up in that stuff too, and there's this kind of, it's like a catch-22. There's this whole, excitement that they give them and this hope, and then when things don't happen, they always blame the person, like, you just didn't understand me, or you didn't have enough faith, or, and so just send us more money, right? And then it'll be okay. And so they keep doing it, and it's like this cycle they get into. And it's
and of course, the more you believe it, and the emotions can take hold, and you can convince yourself. And if somebody tries to tell you otherwise, of course, then it's an emotional thing, and you're being attacked.
Exactly.
So you have to fight back.
Exactly. Yeah. That's really tough.
You won't listen to reason.
Yeah. No, I know.
But then, of course, the evangelistic movement is very emotional. You get, that born again sensation that you get, that they believe they're saved, is an emotion.
I really wish I could have found a place to jump in and mention how Watchtower seems to always refer to the so-called anointed class of JWs as people who feel they have the anointing. So, at least to some degree, they depend on some feeling to decide if they are part of the special higher class of JWs. But then on the other hand, I've heard them use that same term as a means of belittling and downplaying the majority of people who partake of the elements at their annual memorial, even to the point of suggesting that they are mentally unstable. So which is it? Can these special JWs trust their feeling that they are part of the higher class? At the same time, should the rest of the JWs look down on them and keep their distance? This has to be a major source of cognitive dissonance for the rank and file Jehovah's Witness, and probably for the ones that think they're chosen as well.
And
I'm not familiar with that. I've heard that from some people, but that's not my experience.
well, that's what a lot of them do, you know, from talking with different people. Yeah, because they'll say to you, well, if you've never met the Lord, you don't understand the emotional experience. You know.
Yeah.
So they talk about needing the Lord.
Yeah, I guess I don't. I mean, I think there can be emotion involved, but I would never trust an emotional experience for something. I trust that, if God is transforming me and giving me new life, new love for Him, and hate for my sin and that kind of thing, that's an example of God working, as opposed to just having an emotional event happen, because people have emotional events all the time, and they could mean any number of things.
Even the Bible tells you not to trust your heart.
Right, exactly.
Heart is treacherous.
Exactly, yeah. The human heart is desperately wicked. Who can know it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree, and that's really, and we live in an age of emotion, right? Everybody's just do what feels good to you, and that's a hard thing to talk. I've been actually got a chance to talk to some Mormons recently, and they were, they have this thing where they say, pray and read their Book of Mormon and see if you have what they call the burning in the bosom. I don't know if you've heard of that. Mm-hmm. It's just the same sort of
that's just another version of that.
Yeah.
Leading the Lord in an ecstasy,
Yeah, it's just trying to base everything on an emotion. Yeah, I think that's a dangerous way to go, because the human heart is deceptive. So.
And of course, the love that the Bible describes, and the love that God is, because God is love. That it says in James 4:8. God is He's principled love, and principled love is different than an emotional love.
For sure.
Because Jesus taught his followers to love his enemies.
Yeah. At this point, we got into some more personal discussion, so I'm just going to cut that part out and pick up where she was talking about supposedly some Baptist church. Considering how little attention she will pay to any detail normally, I do have to question how accurate anything she says about it even is. And you'll also hear her switch from calling it a Baptist church to a Pentecostal church. So I do wonder sometimes how many of these stories that she tells are really just regurgitated from Watchtower articles or talks. This was clearly her opportunity to try and bash all of what she calls Christendom in order to puff herself up for being in what she thinks is the true organization.
And over a period of time, of course, there was schisms, separations formed in the Baptist church. So then there was, when we talk to a lot of what they call evangelists, they don't belong to any church, because they believe, as in the book of Revelation, as they say, the harlot that's riding the beast with seven
horns, yeah.
7 horns, and is actually organized religion.
Oh, like
so
Harold Camping.
Pentecostals have that Pentecostal emotion that they got first in the Baptist church, but then feel that organized religion is too commercial and too tied up in the world, and you can follow your heart.
Again, we got back into some more personal discussion here, so I'm just cutting that part out. Well, I don't know if this would be helpful to you or not, but with the kind of people that she's listening to, just a thought that came to mind. that you could ask her sometime if she, just and don't even expect an answer or anything, but ask her if she's ever heard of Costi Hinn.
About what? About what?
Costi Hinn. It's Costi.
And what is that?
And the last name is Hinn, Hinn.
Oh, Hinn.
Yeah. And he is he's a Christian.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Okay, you've probably heard of Benny Hinn.
Mm-hmm.
Benny is his uncle. And
I don't know which Hinn, but there's
yeah.
a pastor that's not allowed in Canada, I know.
Right. So Benny Hinn is he's got this like really, beautiful white hair, and he's very dramatic, and he's one of the prosperity gospels. He's one of the big guys, like really rich guys,
Mm-hmm.
I
know the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, he's actually from Israel, and then he lived in Canada, and his brother actually lives in Vancouver. So Costi's nephew would be an interesting one to just mention maybe to your daughter-in-law. Maybe don't tell her anything about him. Just see if she's curious to look him up sometime. But Costi was going to be the one that Benny was grooming to be the guy to take over the business. Mm-hmm. But now Costi is very, very kindly and graciously explaining to people publicly why what Benny Hinn teaches is wrong. So that's why I thought it might be interesting if she happened to look him up and see what he says, because he's so he has such great information, and he's so kind, like he's not like, my evil Uncle Benny. He's just like, here's where these things are incorrect. Here's where he's wrong, but he loves his uncle and wants to see him come out of that and stop, doing what he's doing and everything. But anyway, I just thought it would be interesting because there's a real family relation there. She might find him interesting to check out sometime. So if you mentioned him in passing or something.
I imagine there's a lot of people opposed to that,
Yeah. Well, yeah, but just because
even the country is not allowed,
Oh yeah, no.
prosecuting him, so.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Just because Costi is like someone who loves his uncle and wants to, but he's in a unique position to explain the problems with that. And sometimes when people can start to see that, then they can start to use their own minds to question, why am I following these false teachers? There's a lot. I mean, there's just dozens and dozens of them out there.
There's.
But anyway, that's why I thought
over 5 million types of faiths around the world. When you stop and think about it.
That's just the only reason, because she probably, if she listens to those types of people, then I'm sure she listens to Benny Hinn too. So she might find Costi really interesting to listen to, and that would help her maybe to start seeing some of the issues, and that might be a help to her. That's all, the only reason that I mention it. That it might help her to very gently start questioning things for herself over time. It's. And again, we're back into some personal discussion here. Eventually, as always, she brings it around to basically praising the Watchtower and how her strong faith is getting her through, etc. I didn't want her to get back into the usual Paradise Earth promotion, so I changed the subject and asked her about whether she thought they would be meeting at Kingdom Halls again in person. Keep in mind that this was June of 2021. Now in 2022, there are some rumblings that they may start up again, since they're now the only group that's still not meeting, which I'm sure must make them feel kind of foolish at this point.
My faith is very strong, and I know these things are happening, and I know why they're happening. So I've got the answers, and that helps me,
Sorry, that reminds me, that's a little off topic, but have you heard anything about whether you guys are going to be going back door to door or meeting at your Kingdom Halls or anything?
Not until we hear from governing, the society.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if you'd heard anything yet, because as I mentioned, talking to.
It's interesting in that when we were the first ones that we as Jehovah's Witnesses were the first one around, really all around the world, that stopped meeting. Yeah. And went on Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's interesting in that several actually a whole year later, because we started in 20, not associating.
Yeah.
And then in the early part of 21, when the numbers were so high in Brazil and in some countries, and of course in China, then the main health officer of Brazil, I forget what his name was, but he contacted our headquarters in Brazil, and he had found out that we had been isolating ourselves for almost over a year before the World Health Organization said, dictated it a pandemic. And he contacted our headquarters in Brazil and said, "How did you people know it was a pandemic? Who told you?"
Mm. This is definitely some embellishing of a story that she has told me previously, after she heard it on their website. I guess she must have really liked the story, so she continues to boast about it.
He was just amazed. But it wasn't that anybody told us. It was just common sense.
Yeah, just talking to some Mormon friends, they were saying that apparently, like in the States, they've been shut down as well, of course, and they're actually starting to remobilize and go door to door again. So that's why it reminded me to ask you if you'd heard anything from your organization.
There's churches here that have disobeyed in Canada, that have disobeyed the laws, and they've been charged.
Mm-hmm.
There's been churches in BC and in Manitoba.
Yeah.
That I can think of right at the moment that are, in fact, there was a big protest in Manitoba about this one church, this minister that was being taken to court for disobeying orders of not gathering less than 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
And there was mass protests at the legislature building in Winnipeg because of him. So
she was getting the provinces wrong here. The pastors that were being arrested were actually in Alberta. If you would like to know more about them and their churches, check out Grace Life Edmonton with Pastor James Coates and Fairview Baptist with Pastor Tim Stevens. Both of them were arrested and put in jail for faithfully shepherding their flocks. If you're looking for sound teaching, I highly recommend checking out their YouTube channels. I wasn't going to get into a debate with her about that whole subject because I didn't see any point in it. Her point in bringing them up was clearly to ridicule, not have any meaningful discussion about it.
That's been going on all over the place.
Yeah, no, I was just talking about the Mormons down in the States where they're allowed to. They're allowed to go door to door if they want to. So they're starting up again. So that's what I had just wondered.
Well, each state is different, just like each province is different here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the state that makes the regulation on how many people they can meet.
Yeah.
Now they're thinking in Canada of allowing church gatherings in not more than 50 people.
Yeah, that's already happening. Yeah.
But that's each province, you see, and it's the same in the States.
Yeah.
So it will depend on each state.
Yeah. Okay, well, I wasn't sure if you might have just heard something because I don't always, keep up on everything that they say.
We'll wait till our headquarters say yes. That we can meet, and we'll follow what the COVID numbers are.
Mm-hmm.
And the legal authorities are. We don't push the government to make any changes in their government.
Mm-hmm.
We obey what the laws are.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I was just wondering. But I should actually let you go. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing, make sure you're You're carrying on okay during all this?
Yeah, but just
Yeah.
taking it one day at a time.
Yeah. Good.
What we can do and all that.
Yeah. Well,
What we've been doing with our, we're still active as witnesses. What we do, we're on a letter writing campaign, and I don't know whether you received any letters.
I did.
From, because we divide the city in the territories, and then we find out, we either telephone people or we write letters.
Yeah, I got a letter, I guess a few months ago. Yeah, they just, I called because they left me their number, and they just invited me to watch the memorial.
Oh, yeah.
On Zoom, so...
we did a campaign to try and invite as many people as we could to the memorial.
Yeah. I did indeed log in for the Zoom memorial service. I found the whole thing fairly boring and also quite disturbing. Watching them pass the bread and wine in front of their cameras to show their rejection of them was particularly shocking. It's all very Black Mass-like, isn't it? I also noticed that the others watching were finding it quite boring too, as I saw many of them yawning periodically throughout. One guy even looked like he'd taken his clothes off at some point. But it was interesting to check out, since I've never been to one and have never been to a Kingdom Hall either. Yeah.
Actually, the summer now, within this next month, we'll be doing another campaign to invite people to live stream our convention.
Oh, okay.
And so that'll be from down east, and it'll be on live streaming on our jw.org network.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we have has anybody informed you that we have we have one online broadcast every month?
Yeah, I've seen some of those, yeah.
jw.org. So, in fact, there's all kinds of, I was just looking this morning, and there's all kinds of articles about health, and like I was just reading about mental illness and compulsive behaviors, things like that. So it was there's many articles on depression, things. And right now there's an interesting one on about how to beat pandemic fatigue.
Oh, yeah.
That it gives a lot of helpful hints on there.
Okay, yeah. So is there...
You'll probably be getting either a telephone call or a letter about the invitation for to stream on for the convention.
Yeah. Will that be a Zoom meeting as well, or is that just to something to watch on the website?
Well, you'll be able to get that on the jw.org website.
Okay. All right, well, I'll keep an eye out for that then.
Yeah, you can look that up, and it's going to be, you can, watch it in segments then. Because it's during 3 days, it's for 3 days steady, but you don't have, I won't be watching it all the time. We'll be dividing it up into segments so that you can watch, watch it just as you like to, for an hour, 2 hours, or half an hour, or whatever, and then get back to it. And, But there'll be some interesting subjects there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And lots of videos. We're showing a lot of videos now, like this convention is going to have the story about Daniel.
Okay.
So and it's done because nowadays they can make films with thousands of people, but they're all virtual people,
Yeah.
So now it has modern technology, so you can make a film quite readily without thousands and thousands of cast members.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it makes an interesting story,
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll keep an eye out for that. And Yeah, I'll let you go, and give me a call anytime if you want to catch up or
Oh, great.
chat or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I was sort of hesitating. I was letting you do the phoning because I don't. A lot of people, they feel that because we used to call on people, door to door.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to feel that I'm trying to convert you or pressure you in any way.
Oh no, you don't have to worry about that with me. We've been talking for years. I always love to hear your voice.
Okay. That's very kind of you to say that.
Yeah. Well,
I'll keep that in mind. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, you take care.
And you too.
And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, nice hearing you.
Yeah,
Take
you
care.
too.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.